So we already covered sodium chloride and potassium, but what about bicarbonate? Why am I bringing that up? Why is that important? Well, bicarbonate, it all deals with this chemical equation. And notice that it is an equilibrium reaction. So you have the formation of these compounds both one way and back. So this is what we have here. So we have carbon dioxide, we have water, and this forms carbonic acid. Carbonic acid in an aqueous solution dissociates to form bicarbonate. This is a weak base. And then you have your protons, your hydrogen ions, aka acid. So happens when you dissolve carbonic acid in water. So this bicarbonate ion, this is the one you're measuring in that Chem 7 panel. So this is what we have, the bicarbonate buffer system. So what's the end thing? So the carbonic acid, just know is the intermediate step, but we have carbon dioxide and water forming acid, and acid can combine with bicarbonate to form carbon dioxide and water, which is not acidic. So you're able to create more acid, but you're also able to remove acid from the system by using this bicarbonate buffer. So again, whenever you have an acid and its conjugate base, like we have here with carbonic acid and bicarbonate, you have a buffer that helps to absorb or release hydrogen ions to maintain a stable pH in a solution. Now, the very important part about this equilibrium reaction is what happens if this equilibrium is disturbed. So it's kind of like homeostasis, right? So what we have here is, like, say the carbon dioxide concentration increases. What's going to happen is that this is going to shift the equilibrium towards the other side to compensate and balance this equation out. So as I have an increase here, it's also going to cause an increase down the chain. And this is what we call Le Chatelier's principles. So what are the implications of Le Chatelier's principle with the increase in carbon dioxide? Well, if you have an increase in carbon dioxide accumulating in the tissues, say it's due to strenuous exercise, or if it's due to some blockage in the alveoli or any of your airways, if your body is unable to get rid of carbon dioxide, this will cause acidification of that surrounding tissue. Now, another example of this is I actually learned this from my colleague in ocean science and earth sciences. But things like ocean acidification, there's more carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, and things like organisms, like many of the marine organisms, such as coral, they have an enzyme called carbonic anhydrase. It's like same overall function as the carbonic anhydrase in our cells. It converts carbon dioxide and water into carbonic acid. So what they saw is that, again, due to increasing carbon dioxide, we have a drop in pH. Again, a drop in pH means there's increased acidification. So this is one reason so when you have increased carbon dioxide, you have increased acidity. Now, does this work in the other way around? So again, it's like, remember, this is a reversible reaction. It not only goes from carbon dioxide to acid and bicarbonate, it can actually go the other way around. If you have a lot of acid, that can shift the equation to the other side. Because why? Again, your body likes homeostasis. It likes to remain within at least in arterial blood, it likes to keep a very narrow range. It likes to keep it between a pH of 7.35 to 7.45. It's a very narrow range of pH. Therefore, it's important to get rid of excess acid from your body. So here we have an increase in acid. That's going to shift the equation in the opposite direction. Because why? You want to neutralize that acid with bicarbonate, and then you generate things like water, relatively inert and harmless, and carbon dioxide. And how to get rid of carbon dioxide? Exhale, right? Very easy. Now, you might be familiar with this picture. So this is my poor Alika. He's on the Rainbow Bridge. All right, let's talk about a situation where this might happen with acid leading to the production of carbon dioxide. So what we have here is so this was Alika, and my brother texted me once and he said, oh, Alika wants to go for walks often, but he's barely producing any urine. And the other weird thing is that he's at home, it's 54 degrees in Makakilo, and he's panting like it's 98 degrees in full summer. I was like, oh, that's kind of weird. And then I was thinking about, okay, he can barely urinate. So what's happening when he can't urinate? Well, he's accumulating all this acid in his system. So by the bicarbonate buffer system in your body, what his body was trying to do is compensate by producing a lot of carbonic acid and a lot of carbon dioxide and water. So this is why he was panting very heavily. He was trying to compensate for that acidosis by breathing out and forming all this carbon dioxide and dumping carbon dioxide from his body so he can pull this equation toward this side and lower the pH of his blood, because again, if he has trouble urinating, he's building up all this acid in his circulatory system. We later found out that he actually had prostate cancer, and that was closing or swelling around his prostatic urethra, and this is why he had trouble urinating, and this is why he had that acidosis. Okay, so again, this is a buffer system. Why is it a buffer system? Well, we have carbonic acid, and it's a weak acid, meaning that when you put this carbonic acid into a water-based solution, not every single proton pops off. You don't have complete dissolution of the protons from the conjugate base, and that is what bicarbonate is. So whenever you have a weak acid plus the conjugate base, it's what you call a buffer. And buffer helps to stabilize pH. Why? Because if there's excess acid, the bicarbonate, the conjugate base, can react with that and neutralize it. And if it has too high of a pH and is very alkali, the acid can donate a proton to bring the pH back lower to where it's supposed to be, to an equilibrium. Now there are other buffer systems. This bicarbonate buffer system, major buffer system in your body. There is the phosphate buffer system, but it's not really talking about, it's not very, doesn't have a very strong effect in your plasma, your interstitial fluid, and extracellular fluid. This is more about a buffer inside of the cells. And remember that proteins, they're made of amino acids. You can have acidic amino acids, you can have basic amino acids. So proteins can also donate and accept protons as well. So they do form a buffer system just by having these acidic and basic amino acid residues in their structure. Now again, blood pH, very important. Again, if it dips below 7.35, you have acidosis. If your pH goes above 7.45, you have alkalosis. So not only, why is this so important? Well, again, remember you have the proteins are the functional workhorses molecules of your body. So things like receptors, they have to fold, they have to form all these bridges. If you have too many protons, that can disrupt all these salt bridges and hydrogen bonds. Or if you have a lack of protons, that can also disrupt that as well. It can also affect enzymes. Enzymes have optimal pHs. Again, enzymes, there are some ribonucleic acid enzymes, but most of them are proteins, right? It all involves some sort of chemical bonding. If you have too many protons or if you have too little protons in a solution, that can affect the overall structure of these proteins, thus preventing their normal functioning. This is why blood pH is very tightly regulated in your body.